Definitely, security risks impact economic performances, but what are the reports actually telling us about Israel's economy now?
Well, think about it. Israel is now fighting a war on four separate fronts: Gaza, Lebanon, Houthis, and now Iran. And that one, of course, is the most worrisome given an imminent attack by Israel against Iran, which we can also talk about. In terms of the credit rating, an A rating is still investment grade, which means that most institutions will not be troubled by it.
So, what are the sectors that face vulnerability to the consequences of the recent events and escalations in Israel's economy?
Yeah, they're extraordinary, given the resources that are being deployed on wars on four separate fronts. And keep in mind, as we speak today, the big concern is the level of retaliation that Israel is going to mount against Iran. The last time around in April, after Iran unsuccessfully launched 300 missiles that did virtually no damage, Israel responded. And thanks to American pressure, in part, Israel's response was very moderate. So it ended there. It appears that this time that may not be the case. They may be going for much greater damage, and then who knows what will happen.
Um, how does the public discontent seen in widespread protests, not just a few hours ago, a few days ago, even weeks, it's perhaps widespread protests along the past year, how can this influence economic policy and recovery efforts?
Well, it influences it very broadly. Remember, we're talking about 40,000 innocent people killed in Gaza alone, and now over 1,000 in Lebanon. Communities are up in arms over this and will call for economic boycotts of Israel as long as this killing keeps going on. So clearly, it will have an economic effect on the economy of Israel if they continue along this path.
So, given these challenges, what is your outlook for the Israeli economy over the next year, especially with what the reports are warning uh, in the sectors of investments?
That's a discussion we should have 2 or 3 days from now, because right now nobody can answer that question. For example, if Israel retaliates by bombing the Iranian oil fields, which will destroy the Iranian economy, or by bombing infrastructure, which will turn the lights out in Tehran, and then also by bombing the nuclear facilities, which they won't be able to destroy, but they will be able to do damage. We are talking about a very different picture, because Iran would be forced to retaliate, and then you have a full-scale war that might or might not involve the United States. So it's impossible to answer that question
But the
today,
result of that
but
would,
we
would
might be
definitely
able to
impact the
look at it
region as a
three
whole and
days from now.
perhaps the world economy. But how can this affect Israel domestically and locally and inside Israel, especially with the anger and the widespread protests?
Well, the effect would be that remember, hundreds of thousands of Israelis have already protested against the Netanyahu government for their inability to get a ceasefire that would release the hostages. Hundreds of thousands of people protested against the government. Now we all know that a ceasefire was imminent and agreed to, but Netanyahu backed off at the last minute under pressure from his right-wing government that they would bring down the government. So the matter escalated into the war that we're into right now. The Israeli population will obviously not be happy with this. That said, the Israelis realistically are probably happy that Israel was able to take out Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah. they're probably rejoicing over that, but that may be short-lived.